Hello, Solomon.
Hello.
My name is Marianne, and I welcome you to my home, and I'm very glad you're here. I have a series of questions about something I witnessed out here in the landscape behind you a few days ago. It seemed to be a large light source in the shape of a dome in a blue color and seems unexplainable.
Well, everything is explainable on some level. Unexplainable in your terminology, perhaps.
Are you aware of what I'm speaking of?
Yes.
Was this light that I saw man-made?
No.
Was it a natural energy phenomenon?
Repeat.
Was the light that I witnessed a natural energy phenomenon?
No.
So you're saying it was created by someone or something?
This doesn't necessarily need to be a yes or no discussion. If you like, we can go into a certain amount of detail, although we cannot go into extensive detail at this time, but we are at liberty to present to you certain aspects of what you experienced.
Please.
Well, first of all, the one most important aspect of this question that we would like to put forth from a human level is to remind yourself always to never doubt your initial instinct, your gut reaction, your impulse that tells you something. And I think we are in agreement that you understand what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Your logical mind at times has created doubts around something that you already know to be true. And by seeking answers through us is for the point of clarification, so that you can eventually come around full circle to come back to trusting what you already know to be true. That on some level, this blue dome of what you saw was something from the extraterrestrial realm. No?
That's what I believed it to be.
And this is true. This is very much part of our intro. This is why we began this discussion by opening up the idea of the imagination. Your imagination is directly and always has been directly connected to pure consciousness. In pure consciousness, anything and everything is possible, no exceptions. Now, bringing this idea back to linear levels, more denser levels of the human experience, there are interactions and relations going on all the time, constantly, from an energetic level, from a pure level of consciousness, between other beings and yourselves. This blue dome that presents itself to you, this is not the first time you have actually witnessed it, we must say. It is the first time that you aligned with it in such a way that you have a remembrance of it. However, when you saw it for the first time with your physical eyes, it did not feel as if it was the first time. It felt familiar, no?
Yes, I suppose it did.
And this is simply because you have witnessed this before. This is a difficult idea to bring into the human understanding. But it's very similar to what happens in a dreamlike state, in a meditative state. For an instant, dreams may seem as if they are the only thing that is running through your mind, through your memory. And within a very short period of time, they're as far away as could possibly be. You cannot grasp them back. You cannot pull them back into your memory. You cannot recall the details. They become blurry and fuzzy and eventually disappear altogether. To see and experience things that are outside the norm, there needs to be a lot of different alignments happening all at once. Alignments not just between you and your higher self and source and all of creation, but alignments between all of those plus the consciousness of entire groups of beings to allow that sighting to happen. Now, when you think about the quantumness of that concept, that is what throws you for a loop. That is what brings about the feelings of doubt, of questioning. Because on some level, you know this. And within that knowing, then mixes with the ego part of the human, the ego part that tells you, I'm just one little individual being. How could my alignment possibly have anything to do with the alignments of entire civilizations? Well, we're here to tell you that this is how it works. So to align in such a way, to be privy to certain information, is based upon one thing: love, which equates to trust. There's a certain amount of trust that comes with that kind of sighting. Do you feel this?
Yes.
Does it frighten you?
Deeply, no.
On a superficial level, then?
I suppose there's a point where you still struggle with your human brain, as you call it, just to try to make it logical in some way. And I do understand what you say with the alignments, and that all makes sense to me. But what was the purpose of my seeing it this time?
You wanted to. You have to remember that the primary purpose behind everything is happiness and fun. Literally. Literally. Not just for the human species, but for all beings. Curiosity generally, not always, but generally, a curiosity leads down a path towards fun and happiness, excitement, passion, newness, expansion on one's world, let's say. Bringing new understandings, new concepts, new ideas, new knowledge, newness, period, newness to your experience. Otherwise, life becomes boring, stagnant, mundane. So, there was an agreement that you would find excitement and thrill in such a sighting.
I did.
Yes, so we see that.
But part of me still wants the explanation of whether, what was the source of it? Where did it come from? Was it from the earth? Was, like it, there's no way to explain it to myself. I witnessed it. But I guess I just need some explanation as to what it was.
The creation of it is a very difficult thing to put into words. But essentially, it would be closely related to that which you would call a hologram. Comprised mostly, well, this is a funny thing because everything, every part of everything is energy. So, to best describe what you saw was a type of energy that is specific to a multitude of civilizations who share a specific vibration for the purpose of having access to your world, to your plane, to your dimension, for the purpose of simple observation. And, of course, bringing with them their own resonance, their own vibration, which then mixes and matches with your own in such a way that there are sightings from time to time, which will increase over the next many years as your planet awakens and expands and grows and becomes more open to the ideas that there are other forms of life out there. These sightings will become more and more apparent.
What drew them here?
They've always been here.
But I mean, to this specific area, is there something that they're interested in, or?
There is areas on your planet that are, in your terms, called vortices and portals, where energy moves freely between worlds, where energy moves at a universal level, let's say. It's almost as if we would use the analogy of a universal language, where like beings will match the vibration of the vortice, of the portal, to allow access. It's free-flowing, open seas, space, where open communication is possible. Now, this part of your province is located within one of these vortices, which makes it an ideal location for such transportation hubs to be located. Does this make sense?
Yes. Would that have anything to do with the ley line that's through this area?
Everything has everything to do with everything. So yes.
And would you say that the large red globes that my father sees are also holograms as well?
No, not exactly. Although they will appear that way they are more of the physical form. They are denser than that of energy that creates a hologram.
So would these beings then physically be here or be here on some level?
Both. Just like you. You are physically here and you are energetically here. You are here on a multitude of levels, as are all of your surrounding guides, teachers, angels, whatever you like to call them. Loved ones who have passed on. All your various soul families that act as parts and pieces of you. Surrounding your own energy field at any given time, always, is a piece and part of every single soul on your planet. Every single soul, there is a piece and part of that individual soul. And within that piece and part of those individual souls is a piece of all creation. That is your unifying point of attraction to one another. That speck. And not only are you surrounded by pieces and parts of your own individual human family, but you are surrounded by pieces and parts of your non-physical friends. This idea alone is bringing forth a feeling in our partner right now of dizziness, of spinning. And the reason for this is because when you tap into this feeling of expansionness, you'll begin to feel the momentum that it can create. Integrating all of these individual yet collective pieces of consciousness into your own being, into your own energetic field, from a level of awareness, will magnify your experience in such a way that it will be unexplainable to those around you. They will simply be the witnessing crowd around you, wondering what could you possibly be doing to be creating such a magnificent life. Now, if you were to turn to tell them, well, I've tapped into each and every little piece and part of every individual soul, that's they'll think you're crazy. And we understand that. So share as you will, freely, bearing that in mind. But do you feel that?
I do. I guess I haven't really realized the expansiveness of what you just spoke, but I do connect with energies and spirits and guides and different spirits on the property. At least I think I do, but I certainly, since the dome for sure, have felt a presence with me all the time.
And that comes often with an experience through what you're used to, which is your five senses. This is part of the human creation. This is part of the human experience. This is part of who you are here in this physical form. It's not part of your entire being, but it's part of this experience. And this is the reason why human beings like to hear, taste, see, experience something through their five senses, to bring a concreteness to their ideas. Now, this being said, there will come a time when this won't be so. And this is where you're moving towards. And this is why these kinds of sightings, these kinds of experiences with other beings, with other avenues are so important. Because eventually, as a collective consciousness, as a species, you won't be so reliant on these senses. You will become more of a multisensual being, which is what you are moving towards right now. And there are moments and times when this is the case, as in the night that you saw this blue dome. The stars had to be aligned for that to happen. That doesn't happen through the five senses. That happens from a multi-dimensional state of being. Where at that particular moment, for whatever reason, you were in the place of pure consciousness. That where there's no obstructions. For if there were obstructions, you wouldn't have aligned with it. You wouldn't have seen it. You wouldn't have been able to. It's not a physical form that you're seeing. Do you get this?
Yes, and I was going to say, so you're saying that an experience like that is a very personal experience, that another person wouldn't have seen the same thing I saw that night?
No, that could be a group experience. But the same kind of thing would have to happen. There'd have to be an alignment then that included other people. Right? If you go back and think about this for just a split second, you'll see. What we said is for you to have that experience, to be in alignment with what was happening, you were in alignment with not just your own higher self, but you were in alignment with entire groups of beings, of civilizations. So now that being said, that's a lot of beings. So what's another 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 50, 20 of your own beings, of your own species? The idea is the alignment, the integration of resonance, reaching alignment through your energetic state. But that doesn't happen through the five senses. It happens from a quantum level.
So when you speak of these beings, is there a particular civilization that you can say was part of that experience?
There was a multiple. But at this point, no. We are not at liberty to say exactly. That's not to say that we won't, so we encourage you to keep asking. We're not shutting the door to the idea. But at this particular time, it's not the time or the place or the space in time to reveal that information. But we can tell you that it's not just one civilization, one species. There are more than one groups of beings that are part of your process. There are some that work more closely in conjunction with the human race for the purpose of reunification, reuniting, reintegrating, removing boundaries and blockages that at present time create a certain amount of separation, of individualization. But part of the planned process, part of the agreement, is to allow for certain opportunities to arise, such as your own, to begin to bring into light the idea that there are relations beyond which you are used to, that are supportive and nurturing, that are not necessarily these crazy aliens coming down to Earth to stick needles in your eyes. Not that we are judging your entertainment system, but we poke, I guess, a little bit. There is nothing to fear. There's nothing to be fearful of. It's exciting, these times of reuniting with those who care for you and love you the way we do. More so than you love yourselves.
Do they like what I'm doing personally and here?
Take no offense to this, but they don't care. All they care about is your own personal happiness. There's no judgment factor in terms of how that happiness comes to you, how you find joy in your life, how you find passion, how you find alignment. The point is finding joy, passion, and alignment. The details and how you get there are of no consequence to anyone other than yourself. It should be of no consequence to anyone around you either, in physical form. If what you are doing in turn provides joy, happiness, bliss, and passion for others, then ultimately that leads back to your own joy, passion, and happiness. That in itself is an energetic vibration, an energetic level. And from a quantum standpoint, this is what we see. The details of how you get there are irrelevant. We are just here simply to teach about the idea of finding joy and passion and love. Being of service, understanding gratitude, understanding your ego, understanding that which comprises you as a human being, but is yet always connected to the divine source of creation, which is you. That is our purpose. And that is the purpose of other beings that find your planet very intriguing, very interesting. You are being watched solely for the purpose of expansion. And expansion only happens from the point of love, from that point of attraction, that speck, that piece of you, that piece of every soul that encompasses your own energetic field. Some of these concepts are very difficult to bring into linearity. Even the easy ones are difficult sometimes.
So how close on level are, let's say, extraterrestrial beings to guides and angels? Like you speak of them almost on the same dimensional level. How are they different?
From the non-physical level, they're not different at all. But they too are having physical experiences. They differ in terms of relative distance to the non-physical realm, to creation, based on their own expansion from a spiritual sense. But there still is a degree of separation when in physical form. Now, there are beings, of course, that are operating strictly from a non-physical form, in which case there is very little, if any, separation. But when we are talking about other civilizations that are experiencing the illusion of physicality, they too have the same kind of distance from their own pure consciousness, as do you. From a non-physical perspective, all beings, all creation is one. Which is why we can tell you that these experiences are coming from a place of love, because they've all come from the place of love, divine creation.
And so would you say extraterrestrial beings are more aware of their connection to source, in that when we come here, we're brainwashed and we, it's like we have to learn anew everything. We have to reconnect with ourselves and with source and understand these concepts of love and manifestation and all of that. Do they have to go through that as well in their physical experience, or are they much more aware of their connection to source, of who they are as an eternal being?
They experience similarities, yet the human species has chosen a very difficult route to take. There are currently no other civilizations that are experiencing the same degree of forgetfulness that you have. Which is why there are eyes on you, watching, anticipating, measuring the vibratory levels of each individual and the entire collective. Watching with anticipation as to which direction you will go.